Welcome to the Subway Conversation Chat. I'm Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to chat about some New York baseball with you all, as well as with my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any further delay, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. As we talked about backstage, Knicks game tonight. Yankees already up 4-0. Mets have a big series coming up with the Braves because they got a game postponed tonight. Lots to talk about on our Subway Conversation chat tonight. And also, for those who were looking for a show last week, I was busy PAing a lacrosse Empire 8 championship semifinal game, but now I'm back this week ready to go. What about you, Joe?
Excellent. I've been definitely itching to get back to this, talking some baseball, talking some Mets, Yankees. There's been a lot going on. Not the best of 2-week period for the Mets, but we'll talk about that. But still, looking very much forward to being back here and talking some baseball. So, I'm glad things went well for you on Wednesday and last Wednesday. And, again, good to be back. And why don't we start with you? 2 weeks have gone by here. So tell us some of the things going on in Yankee land here.
Well, first of all, with us off last week, I'd like to get us all caught up on the Yankees injury report. So let's start with our ace pitcher, Garrett Cole. Mm-hmm. He continued to throw off the mound at Yankee Stadium on May 4th, which was on Garrett Cole bobblehead day. And everybody, may the 4th be with you. The Cy Young Award winner threw 15 fastballs in his attempt to prove in his recovery. And yesterday he had another bullpen outing to improve on his pitching. So Cole is planning to travel with the Bombers to Tampa for their next series so he can do some throwing at the Yankees workout facility there. The shifty right-hander is anticipated to require at the minimum of 4 to 6 weeks to gear up before he is ready for pitching. And the Yankees do not have an exact date on when their top-notch pitcher is going to return. And they don't really need one right now. I feel like they don't need to rush him in because the team's gelling and pitching well without him from starter to bullpen. So, and now let's move on to DJ LeMahieu. Excuse me, folks. On May 4th, he has been taking hits in batting cages as well as starting infield practice on May 7th. The clutch third baseman will travel with the team on their next trip to play the Tampa Bay Rays to work out at the team's facility there and working on his ground balls and also batting practice. Again, with LeMahieu, there's no set date for LeMahieu's return yet. Therefore, Oswaldo Cabrera keeps getting more reps to show that he could be the permanent guy as a young prospect. Mm-hmm. And after that, he may join another minor league rehab assignment. But we will have to go from there to see how many games he needs to see how comfortable he and his foot feels. And anyway, we're going to finish up with Yankees star prospect Jason Dominguez. He's been throwing from 135 feet, participating in defensive drills and engaging in batting practice since the end of April. The 21-year-old should be ready to partake in some minor league rehab games by mid-May. Prior to that, he'll be working on all DH for the next week or so. So good news, Dominguez is progressing better than we thought. LeMahieu's not progressing as well, and Cole is still right on track, and they don't have to put him in until they absolutely need to. So anyway, let's now move over to Joe for some Mets news. Joe?
Yeah, and I got some pitching news too. Now, nothing as exciting as Garrett Cole here, and not to that significance. But still, some of the Mets starting pitchers that had gone down early in the year, starting with Tyler McGill, who is actually on a rehab assignment, or actually was on a rehab assignment with Brooklyn, and then with Binghamton. So Brooklyn, A-ball, Binghamton, AA. So McGill, moving up the ranks here, doing some rehab and definitely getting closer to getting back with the Mets here. And, the Mets starters have been doing very well as far as, eating innings and things like that. Some good results, some maybe not. But certainly having some extra depth in the starting rotation here would be, certainly helpful. Also, David Peterson was on a rehab assignment in St. Lucie, another A-ball club there. So again, no news as far as when these guys might be coming back, but certainly, especially McGill, with the fact that he's in Binghamton there at Double-A, that timetable should be, moved up soon. So good news there. Other news, I've been joking about this, middle relief soap opera here. And a couple of guys that were involved in that in the beginning of the year are back here. One of them involving your team, the Yankees here. We're talking about Michael Tonkin and the battles that he was going through. He made the team, last day basically of spring training, and then struggled and then was released and then, was somewhere else and then came back. Well, he did come back to the Mets, pitched a game a couple of weeks ago, but then was put on waivers again, and you'll never guess who picked him up, right? The New York Yankees. Yeah. So I don't know if he's pitched for them. I haven't kept track of that, but
he did last night.
Ironic. What's that?
He did last night because they were up 10-1. He gave up 2 runs, but they still won 10-3.
Okay. So he's already pitching there. And, our friend Johan Ramirez, we were talking about him and how things didn't go so well, with the Mets. And then again, they got rid of him too. And then he went to the Orioles. In fact, we even got a comment a couple of weeks ago from an Orioles fan saying they were happy to have him and he was doing well. Well, they put him on waivers and he is now back with the New York Mets. So they reclaimed him a couple of days ago from Baltimore, and they actually activated him today. So very interesting the way some of these guys have kind of, left the Mets, came back, again, pitching for other teams. And, so again, just amusing to me. I mean, neither one is really making positive impacts in the relief and the bullpen, but I find it very interesting. Another big news for the Mets is the long-awaited debut of J.D. Martinez. I say that just when he was at the Red Sox, that's how he was introduced. J.D. Martinez, I'll call him that forever. But they picked him up from Syracuse. They recalled him from Syracuse April 26th. So, right after we had our last podcast here. And, he's starting slow, and it's going to take him a while. I'll give some statistics a little bit later on. But certainly good to have him in the batting order and definitely a positive impact just having him there. And I think as time goes on, his production will make positive impacts in the Mets lineup as well. So good that he's on there. Zach Short, who is a kind of utility guy, the infielder, could play pretty much any position. He was let go. He was designated for assignment. Ended up getting traded to the Red Sox for cash. So not the biggest loss there, but a little bit of utility. But again, they got other guys that could do that. Interesting here, too, that Mark Vientos, who is a prospect, he played some time for the Mets last year and did pretty well in spring training. And it looked like he was going to make the opening day roster for the Mets. And he didn't. He was sent back down to Syracuse. Well, he was called up for just a couple of games, and he did quite well. He went 3 for 7, hit a home run, 2 RBIs. His OPS was like 1,200. So, he was doing pretty well. But then after, those couple of games, he was sent back down, which surprises me a little bit. So, we'll see what happens with him. I was going to check and see how he was doing in Syracuse. I forgot to do that. So I would assume he's doing pretty well. And again, he did well with the Mets in the time that he was here and during the spring. So wondering if it's going to be long before he's, on the Mets roster here for good. So I guess we'll see about that. So other than that, I think that's all I got here as far as news is concerned. So a little bit of stuff going on there. So we'll go back to you, Jamie, and talk about how the Yankees did over these couple of weeks and, any players that stood out or in a positive or a negative way. So I'll send it back over to you.
Well, thank you, Joe. And you did quite well there with the Mets and everything. And as for the Yankees, we do have a lot to talk about here, folks, because it's been a very successful couple weeks. There are, as we already talked about, they're feasting on the Astros again in the regular season. Even, granted, the Astros are still struggling right now, but we got to be able to catch them at a time like this right now until they eventually, I don't know if they're going to make a run, but they may. They're still the Astros, so you still want to focus on beating them as well as any opponent. So, but anyway, let's start off with some other Yankee news, folks. Aaron Judge does it again. He does it again, folks. Aaron Judge, the center fielder, ripped home run career number 261 against the Oakland A's on Wednesday, April 24th. He passed Yankee superstar Derek Jeter on the organization's all-time home run docket. It happened in the bottom of the first inning with Judge, when Judge hit the ball on a 1-2 count on the opposite side of the field, 98 miles an hour. The funny thing, though, is it almost didn't happen. While Juan Soto was on first base, it looked as if ace pitcher Joe Boyle had struck Judge out looking, but third baseman umpire John Toonpain called a balk on Boyle, which gave the 2022 AL MVP another try at the plate. And Judge was heading to the Yankees dugout when he heard Soto tell him to go back to the batter's box. Judge hit the first pitch over the right field wall, earning him his 261st career home run, placing him 9th on the Yanks' all-time home run list. And that booming hit also was a 2-run homer that put the Yankees up 2-0 over the A's. The Yankees ended up winning the game 7-3, and Judge was 2 for 5. Now, I'm not sure what we're going to do about all these umpires and their awful calls this season, Joe. But this was the first time that Aaron Judge has ever been ejected from a game in his career. It happened this past Saturday at Yankee Stadium with their win over the Detroit Tigers 5-3. The questionable call came in the 7th inning when home plate umpire Ryan Blankney ejected Judge after a third strike was called. The mild-mannered outfielder, clearly upset with Blankey's call, gave him an irritated look and murmured a word or a few choice words, but never turned around to disagree as he walked back to the dugout. To Judge's surprise, that's when he was ejected. And we quote here with Judge, "I was walking away kind of saying my piece," Judge said. "I've said a lot worse. The ejection made a scene, and I usually try not to make a scene in situations like that, so I was a little surprised walking away that it happened." The record-breaking home run hitter does express his disagreement with Blankey's call, which might have scraped the outside corner. But he does have a lot of respect for umpires in the league and goes on to say, and quote, "I have a lot of respect for Ryan and what he does. I know their job is tough. I've always had their back because their job is tough back there. For that to happen that way, that's what I'm most upset about, especially late in a close game like that." Then Aaron Boone was asked if he thought the ejection of Judge was justified, and Boone simply said no. And he quoted, "I was surprised. Judge, he says very little usually. He was very respectfully walking away." So, Joe, what do you think about all these bad calls by the umpires that are just so blatantly obvious? And these ejections where it happens with the Yankees again. Aaron Boone says nothing, gets ejected, and Judge just walks away and he mimics something, doesn't get into a fight, and gets ejected. I mean, do you think it's finally time for the ABS to be put in, the automatic balls and strike system, or?
Yeah, I'll comment on a few of those things that you said. I mean, first of all, I think the umpires need to know who they're dealing with. You're dealing with Aaron Judge, who is not known for arguing with umpires. Again, he respects umpires, and I think they know that. You know, you just said a bunch of things that Judge has said about them, and I believe that. And I think his record speaks for itself. He's not the type of person that's going to argue with umpires. I'm sure he's even said worse than what got kicked him out of this game. And again, if you're the home plate umpire there, I think you got to have some leeway. If he continues to argue, or if he's in his face, and if the umpire says, "Look, that's enough, stop, go to the dugout," and he doesn't go, all right, then you throw them out. You don't argue balls and strikes. That's a fact, and that's always been a rule in baseball. But again, know who you're dealing with, and if the guy's walking away, let him mumble a couple of words. You don't have to react to that. I work in a classroom, okay? And you know how many times kids have mumbled stuff under their breath that I heard. It wasn't at my face. If I picked every battle I had in the classroom, I'd have less hair than I do now. And it's the same with the umpires. Just you can't pick your battles, please. If the guy's in your face and he's being blatantly disrespectful, then okay, do your job, and the guy deserves to get thrown out. But that wasn't the case here. So that's one complaint that I have. I always used to say that when you compare sports and the referees and umpires, that baseball had it the best. I'm not saying that anymore. I don't know what it is. And again, when you look at all these calls overall, I mean, to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think baseball umpires still get a large majority of these calls correct. But I think there's a higher percentage now of blatant misses. There's always going to be a bang, bang play that, it's tough. You got to make a split second call. And sometimes they would get that wrong. But now it just seems like there's so many blatant, like, how could you miss that kind of calls that are happening in baseball? Now, luckily, they got replay to back it up. And that makes me wonder a little bit. Do umpires in the back of their mind subconsciously know that, well, I got a lot more leeway here, that if I mess this call up, it'll be corrected on replay anyway? So you wonder if that's going through their mind. And again, I love replay, and especially now with these missed calls that are starting to become more frequent, I think you definitely need to have it. And I think they do a pretty good job of making these calls with replay in a decent amount of time and not delaying the game. So, they're going to have to keep using it. And as far as your question about the automatic balls and strikes, I was ready for that 5 years ago. Honestly, I can't wait for the day in baseball where they have the ABS system there. So I'm ready for it now. I've been ready for it for a few years. And I think just, the reason for that is there's so much inconsistency with the strike zones. I mean, you may argue with me and say, hey, Joe, that's always been the case. And that's true. You had umpires in the past that had high strike zones, that had low strike zones. You get guys like Greg Maddux back in the days that he had certain umpires. He just knew that he was going to have a two-hitter kind of day and he was going to be unhittable because their strike zone was so big. And then other pitchers, they know that they're going to have a tough time because they've had such small strike zones. So it's just been a matter of inconsistency for so long. And especially now, again, it seems more so than ever that the balls and strike calls can go anywhere. So I definitely, I'm ready for that, as of a few years ago. So bring it on.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. You got to have instant replay now. I mean, why do you think football put it in? And now because they make so many egregious calls, like for roughing the passer, that's why the owners voted to make roughing the passer reviewable, because the way that quarterbacks can just flop now and they call a 15-yard penalty for roughing the passer there.
Right. Or when a particular quarterback gets horse collared and gets called for intentional grounding. We won't talk about that.
Josh Allen, yep.
This is a baseball show.
Right. But same thing, same concept. You get it. We get it here. Definitely. Most of our core audience gets it, the ones that watch sports and love sports as much as we do. So, but anyway, guess what, Joe? Moving on. It is now that time of our show for your favorite segment, the question of the week segment.
Oh, my Lord.
Are you ready to give it another try? You ready to finally get one?
Yes, finally get one. That's the key word there.
Okay, Joe, here's your question. Can you guess this MLB pitcher? He pitched 2 no-hitters and has 2 Cy Young awards. Is it Tom Glavine, Tim Lincecum, Pedro Martinez, or Greg Maddux?
I have no idea. Let's see. I'm going to try to narrow it down by, you said 2 no-hitters
Yep.
and two Cy Youngs.
Yep.
So we got, you said Glavine, Lincecum. Who are the other ones?
Pedro Martinez and Greg Maddux.
I don't remember Maddox getting. He would be my first. Here, let me go to Google for a sec. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. Because I don't have an idea. I'm going to guess it could be any of these guys. I was thinking Glavine had a couple no hitters, but I don't think he had 2 Cy Youngs. All right, I got to go Greg Maddux.
Nope, it was Tim Lincecum.
It was Lincecum. I was thinking that. I didn't know if he had Cy Youngs though. You know. All right. Maybe by the All-Star break, I'll get one of these questions right. You know.
Okay, so moving on.
Gotta say that they're excellent questions too. I'm very disappointed in myself because they're phenomenal questions. But
well, thank you, Joe. We appreciate it. And in other baseball news, just when you thought it was over for the Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter's gambling schemes, a new report from ESPN tells us precisely what happened to Ohtani's money in the wake of it being allegedly stolen by Ippei Matsuhara, his previous interpreter and friend. So anyway, this is from Yahoo Sports' Jack Bayer. The man at the center of the alleged legal gambling ring that received Ohtani's money was Matthew Boyer, who had been under investigation for federal authorities since last year. Ohtani was only roped into the scandal when authorities noticed his bank information among the payments to Boyer. Matsuhara reportedly funneled weekly $500,000 payments from Ohtani's bank account to an associate of Boyer's to cover his illegal gambling losses. ESPN reports that associate would then deposit the money into accounts with Resorts World, a Las Vegas casino opened in 2021, and Pachane's Resort Casino in Temecula, California. Boyer and his associates would then allegedly convert the money to playing chips, gamble with it, and cash it out if they won. Boyer reportedly lost $7.9 million at Resorts World from June 2022 to October 2023, a span of time in which he was receiving money from Matsuhara. This is all apparently part of a much larger trend in the gambling world in which illegal bookies in Southern California use Las Vegas casinos to launder money. 12 people have reportedly been charged and convicted, while 2 Vegas casinos have agreed to pay fines. So let's hope that this is the last that we have to hear of this. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I got 2 weeks of Mets stats we got to go through here too that we forgot to go through. But as far as this is concerned, I'm again, just let it be handled the way it's supposed to handle. I didn't know this information at this point. I don't know if this is fresh, but appreciate you bringing it up here. But I was not aware of that. But it sounds like, again, just like you said, it's like you thought this was done and going away, and there's other stuff here. But again, my take on it is let's get it handled the way it's supposed to get handled and protect the player. That, again, it appears that he's innocent, of any wrongdoing with this. And, hopefully that's proven more and more as time goes on. But, protect the player and let justice be served, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, Joe, before I move on to the Yankees prospects, do you want to talk about your 2 weeks of Mets stats that you have?
Yeah, and like I said, we just went out a little bit there, but not that there's a lot of excellent stuff to talk about for Mets fans. Before we went on our little hiatus there, the Mets had a homestand of 7 games against Central Division opponents, the Cardinals and Cubs, and definitely beatable teams. I said that they should go 4-3 on that homestand, and they ended up going 3-4. which again, I think is subpar because the Cardinals are a subpar team, and they took 2 out of 3 from them. And the Cubs are close to first place, but definitely a lot better at home than on the road. And, the Mets were able to split that series. So I guess not the end of the world. And then being swept by the Rays, who were not playing good baseball at the time and, heading for last place in the American League East. Now, since that time, or, at least since a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden the Rays are the team we've seen for the last few years. I mean, they swept the Mets, and, they're sweeping the White Sox at this point, which pretty much everybody's doing that. But still, I mean, they're not winning 2-1 games. I mean, they're, winning convincingly against the White Sox as well. So they're on a 5-game winning streak and could be 6 after tonight. But still, if you're the Mets, you want to take, at least one of those games. And they did win the first 2 games in St. Louis, getting back at them there. And, today's game got rained out. So not bad. So 5-7 in the 2 weeks since we last met here. Again, not the best, but hopefully they can get it going. Although, we'll talk about the upcoming schedule, which is going to be extremely difficult coming up. Now, some players to talk about. I think we had mentioned that Francisco Lindor had come alive a little bit and got over the 200 mark. And he had 2 home runs and 10 RBIs in the games this week. So certainly continues, to progress here. Brandon Nimmo, again, he got off to that horrible start, but he had 3 home runs and 10 RBIs this week, 292 batting average, 915 OPS. So, he continues to go strong. Brett Beatty, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. Little concerning, 13 strikeouts in 12 games for Beatty, though. And then some of the other things, Pete Alonso had a couple home runs, 7 RBIs, but he continues to struggle at the plate. I mean, he had 109 batting average this couple of weeks, 13 strikeouts, and only a 505 OPS. I mean, Alonso should be almost twice that based on his potential, at least in the 800-900s, and he hit 500 this week, and that. Starling Marte, again, 179 average, 438 OPS. So he's not, he only played 9 games this week, but he struck out 10 times. So as far as pitching, some decent starting pitching and some struggles here. Sean Manaea pitched 3 games and went 15 innings. And that's the good thing. I was saying this all along that we've been talking about with the Mets pitchers, the starting pitchers. Again, the results are a little bit uneven, but they're eating up innings. I've raved about how well the Mets bullpen has done all year. And I think part of that is just because they're not forced into many innings. I mean, the Mets starters are going usually 5-6 innings here. And Manaea proved that again with 15 1/3 over 3 games. He had a 2.3 ERA. He got 1 win. He did have a 1.4 whip, which means he was giving up some hits and walks and stuff. So, that's a little concerning. But again, those runs weren't coming in. Only, again, 2.3 ERA. Luis Severino pitched 2 games, 13 innings, had a 1 whip, only 5 hits allowed, and a 116 batting average against this week. Jose Butos struggled, but he would get off to slow starts and then gradually again get into a groove and get to the 5th or 6th inning. He pitched 3 games, had a 1-2 record and a 4.5 ERA, but he pitched 16 innings, 16 2/3 innings in those 3 games. So again, there was a couple where he gave up a 3-run homer in the first inning or give up 3 runs in the first inning. He did that twice against the Cardinals, once in each series. But again, ended up staying in the game till the 5th, 6th inning and giving the team some innings. So still only a 224 batting average against. On the other side of things, though, Jose Quintana only pitched 10 innings in the 2 games and had a 7.59 ERA. And Adrian Hauser continues to struggle, 9.64 ERA in the 2 games and only went 9 2/3 in those 2 games. A whip over 2. Which is brutal. So he was demoted to the bullpen. So they picked up somebody named Christian Scott, or promoted somebody named Christian Scott, who pitched one game, and he went 6 2/3 innings in that game. And so an excellent start there. Only gave up 5 hits, a walk, and 6 strikeouts in that game. So he may be sticking around. And again, you may have some of these other starters coming back pretty soon, but still, that's encouraging. And you can put a guy like Hauser in the bullpen in that case, who's been totally ineffective. Now, it's funny, we were talking about how well the Mets bullpen has been doing, but they struggled a little bit. I don't know. I guess you were due for that regression. Now, Sean Reed Foley, who, excuse me, had come back from the disabled list, pitched in 7 games over these last 2 weeks, pitched 5 2/3 innings over those 7 games, and only gave up 1 hit during that whole time. They hit 059 against them. So welcome back to the bullpen, Sean Reed Foley. Other than that, our normal reliables like Diekman, Ottavino, even Edwin Diaz struggled a little bit. Ottavino pitched 6 innings, but he gave up 5 hits and 5 walks and had a loss or 2 in there. Even Edwin Diaz, hold the presses. He had a blown save in one of the games there, and he struggled a little bit throughout here. But again, to me, that's just normal regression a little bit. I mean, these guys aren't going to pitch lights out, 0.5 ERAs forever. Edwin Diaz is not going to save every game. Hopefully they get back to where they were, but nice to have guys like Reed Foley, step up. And it seems like they have those guys that can just step up and be reliable in the bullpen. I certainly know or believe that Ottavino and Diaz will be right back where they were. So on the season, one interesting player I wanted to talk about is DJ Stewart. Now, he has basically half the at-bats of some of the bigger guys here. But it's kind of hard to figure this guy out. He gets some spot starts and some pinch hits. He's got a 185 batting average, but he's second on the team in OPS, which means he's getting on base somehow. He's got some home runs. And I was looking it up. He walks in 22% of his plate appearances. So, that's a pretty high number. I mean, the next highest guy is like at half of that, approximately. So, again, his batting average is 185, but it seems like he comes through in the clutch, again, some good pinch hits, and again, second on the team in OPS. So I think that says something, but it's like the Jekyll and Hyde part of that. Brandon Nimmo is the team leader in RBIs with 25. Again, he had 10 this week, or the last couple of weeks, I should say. Alonso still the team leader in home runs with 9. Now he's talking about JD Martinez and how it's good to have him in the lineup. Tough start. I mean, he's got no home runs, only 2 RBIs, in the 12 games that he's played, but he's hitting 297. It looks like he's not getting many extra base hits because the OPS is like 701. So, that's average, maybe I'd say right around average. So he's hitting, but maybe just not to the level that they would want at this point. He's got 13 strikeouts in 12 games, but again, I think that's adjusting being back in the majors, and hopefully we'll see those strikeout numbers go down. So, last player I'll talk about, Francisco Lindor. Again, he's not, he's one of those Jekyll and Hyde players. He's not really getting on base too much, as far as only a 283 on base percentage. You want that probably 100 points higher, ideally for Francisco Lindor. But he's coming through in the clutch. I mean, he's got 20 RBIs. Again, Nimmo's the team leader with 25. And he's second in home runs on the team with 6. So, when they need him, it seems like he comes through with the big hit. It's just he's not hitting otherwise. I think his overall batting average is still only around 211. But compared to where it was, that's good. And still getting some valuable hits when they need him the most. And, I think his numbers will continue to increase as well. So, again, you hope that they've won a couple of games in a row, and you hope that they go in the right direction. But guess who's coming to town? two of the top two teams, or two of the top teams in the National League. So games against the Braves and the Phillies. So I think after that, the Dodgers are coming around not too soon after that. So they have an easier team in between that I'm blanking on who that is right now. But again, Braves and Phillies coming up. So, if they can, I hate to have them go 3-4 on a homestand, but if you can do that against these teams, I think that's going to say a lot. I think the only thing that really can't happen is they get beat soundly at home by these teams, because if they do and they fall further behind, that is going to be disheartening and could have a negative effect, the rest of the way. So if they could be competitive against them and again, win 3 games, let's say, I guess they could take that at this point and continue to increase these offensive stats and go from there. They played well against the Braves when they were in Atlanta. So there's no reason they can't do that again here. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Mets are one of those, like I said, they're a pesky team too. They seem to show up against good competition, so maybe they surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do surprise. Again, they played them tough, and they haven't played the Phillies yet, but they let's see what they can do against this tough competition. And if they do well in these series, then who knows? I mean, they put themselves in the conversation, as far as getting closer in the division there. So, we'll see. I mean, the Braves, I think, are only going to play better. They're going to hit their stride like they did last year, where July and August, they were like September even, they were unbeatable. I think they're going to hit that point again. And I mean, they're already playing amazing baseball, but, the Phillies are playing better than people thought. People predicted them to be very good, and they're even a step ahead at this point. I think they have a much better chance of kind of coming back to the pack a little bit, but they're a team to be reckoned with and will be, all through the season. So again, the Mets can keep themselves in the conversation. I think that's the key here with these 2 series. Don't put yourself out of that conversation. Keep yourself in it and do the best you can. And again, win the series that you can win. And then again, the Dodgers will come around soon, and that's going to be another tough one. So a little tough road ahead for the Mets for the next couple of weeks here.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was Joe and Mets news. Now back to some Yankees news regarding some prospects. Could the Yankees have an MLB ready hitting prospect that we don't know about yet? Well, the Yankees are loaded with great hitting and pitching prospects all throughout the minor leagues, but one of them you may not know yet. His name is Ben Rice. He's a slugger from Somerset Double-A, and he may only be in Double-A, but scouts have watched his MLB highlights, and if you go on MLB.com, it looks like he already has an MLB swing that's already suited for the big time. And his swing kind of reminds me of Emerson Pereira, who already had that type of swing last year, was called up to the Yankees, and now he's on Scranton this year. Hit a home run against the Red Wings last night, walk-off home run. But, yeah, that's who he reminds me of. And by the looks of it, Rice might be ready to make his major league debut right out of Double-A. Might not even need to go to Scranton if they said he's already got a pro-ready swing. So keep an eye on him.
We will.
Here. And next, we're going to talk about pitching prospects, because you can never have enough pitching, especially with nowadays with the way the starters can't seem to go more than 6 innings. So we have pitching prospect Cade Smith. He pitches for the Tampa Yankees, which is their single-A farm team. He was drafted by the Yankees in the 6th round last year in 2023. And he threw 11 strikes in 6 innings pitched in his last outing. And he's still an important prospect for organization long-term, as they may end up needing him. Who knows? Maybe down the line, if another pitcher gets hurt, or if something happens to Garrett Cole, or they just need more arms. But keep an eye on him. He could work his way up in the system.
What's his name?
Cade Smith.
Nate, I thought you said Kate Smith for a second. I says, does Nate Smith, does he sing the national anthem for the Philadelphia Flyers? But
No,
that's I got the wrong person there. So
no, but I said Cade Smith. That's what I said.
yeah, that's sounded like that.
Right. um, Moving on to number 3. This guy's more well known around the Yankees organization, and I call him Aaron Judge 2.0 because that's what he could potentially be. Is Spencer Jones, the center fielder for the Somerset Patriots of AA. Unfortunately, this week he only went 1 for 6 with an RBI, and he struck out twice but had a stolen base. His production's kind of dropped from spring training when everybody thought he could make the roster right away. But as I said, he's got Aaron Judge potential with the way he cracks the bat, and he's very tall. He's 6'8", and he can only improve from here. So then we're going to move on to a relief pitcher from AAA Scranton. His name is Alex Mauricio. He came in relief for Tanner Tully during a game. He pitched 3 innings, struck out 2, and came away with the win. And he's another important relief pitcher prospect, and he could be called up if needed if the bullpen starts to falter, because the Yankees bullpen's done really, really well without him, but they may need him to be ready pretty soon. So
it's funny
so
because I was going to say one of the Mets' top prospects is a guy named Mauricio. I wonder if there's any relation there. He's the one that was their top prospect, but he tore his ACL in winter ball, and you're not going to be playing any baseball, throughout the year. But I wonder if there's any connection there between those Mauricios.
Could be a brother, maybe a cousin. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
We'll see. But anyway, Joe, what do you think about all these potential rookies making it to the Yankees, and even that Ben Rice, who they said he's got an MLB ready swing, and they think he could make it right out of AA to the Yankees?
Yeah, now Rice is still in AA, so you have to take his performance with a grain. No, that's a bad joke. I'm sorry, but it's it's encouraging if I'm a Yankees fan to have guys like this in your system, especially guys that seem to be proving that they're major league ready or almost major league ready. I think you could definitely be encouraged. And like you said, any bullpen, even a bullpen that's doing as well as the Yankees bullpen is right now, can always use more depth and can always use more help. So, guys like those middle relief pitchers, again, anybody can help. And again, even in their batting order. I mean, again, the Yankees have an amazing batting order, but still getting some new blood in there and some guys that could step in if somebody gets hurt, or if just somebody, is in a slump or something, or just a spot rest start. Again, that's, in my opinion, that's good news. And I'd be encouraged if I'm a Yankee fan with, those players that you're talking about.
And as I mentioned, I could have put Jason Dominguez on there, but we already talked about him, and he's a guy that's probably going to be ready to come back. And if you think they're hitting now, wait till he comes back. They're really going to start hitting.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's that. Also, after the prospects, we could also be talking about the Yankees potentially signing some veteran MLB ready now pitchers. So could the Yankees trade for a veteran starter from the White Sox? Well, the Yankees began 2024 with very high expectations. Nonetheless, they're still one of the best teams in the AL. The team has played well, and pitching has been great even without Garrett Cole. But as they say, you can never have enough pitching depth with your starters. And the Yankees, they're looking at this White Sox starter by the name of Mike Clevinger.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense because the White Sox are probably going to be sellers at the deadline, which means the Yankees should still continue to be contenders. So they're going to want to buy this guy from the White Sox to try to make a late playoff run again and go for it all, while the White Sox can try to just rebuild with prospects and basically evaluate to see who's going to make their roster next year and who won't. But the question is, can this pitcher go more than 5 innings? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's, you read my mind when you were talking about that, because everybody knows that the White Sox are going to be sellers. That's not rocket science with the way they're playing. And it's funny you say that because I could definitely see Clevenger on the Yankees. He's been a top-notch pitcher for a while now, and certainly I could see somebody like him fitting into their rotation. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a Yankee uniform.
Mhm. So anyway, and then they also could add another starting pitcher too. And this guy's name they're linked to, he's Blue Jays star Yusei Kachuki. And right now, the Yanks are contenders while the Blue Jays are surprisingly in last place in the AL East. But that AL East is very, very tough. And
Mm-hmm.
Toronto could eventually hit their stride because once they do, they're a tough team to beat as well. But right now the Yankees are contenders while the Blue Jays, as of right now, they would be sellers because they're last. But this would make sense for the Yankees to keep loading up on arms, and then the Blue Jays could also trade for maybe some young hitting prospects or some pitching prospects to build up their farm system too.
Yeah,
So
you know who the Blue Jays this year remind me of the 2023 New York Mets. They are just playing completely uninspired baseball and are underachieving big time. They should not be in last place in the American League East. I mean, granted, the American League East is tough, and pretty much everybody except them in the did I say National League? American League East. Everybody in the American League East at this point is playing well. Yankees, Orioles, Red Sox are hanging in there playing well. The Rays have woken up now. And there's the Blue Jays just playing their uninspired baseball, deserving to be in last place. But it's funny because they remind me of last year's first half Mets, who just were completely uninspired and way underachieving, and certainly not the case for the Mets now. Like I said, I like the way they're playing, and they really fight and play well. And the Blue Jays are always one of those teams. Again, I'm 2 hours from Toronto here. I always considered them like my second favorite, I would say. So I hate to see them playing that way. And hopefully they can turn it around because they have a lot of talent on that team. Guys like Guerrero is playing like he's washed up already, and all those
Ernie
hitters
Clement's doing well though.
yeah, but some of the guys that you would think, would be excelling, Bichette. I mean, where's he been? What's he doing? And just, some of these other guys are really not stepping up. So I could, like you said, I could see them being sellers. Yankees have a good system and could maybe afford to give somebody up. So, it certainly help the Blue Jays, to get some, fresh blood in there. And again, certainly for the Yankees, as we said, to get some pitching depth in there, that somebody that can certainly help them. And again, he's not exactly been the best pitcher lately, but again, he'll eat up innings and make it easy on the bullpen. And, he should be able to go, 5-6 innings on a regular basis. So certainly somebody that could help the Yankees as well.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's a win-win. I feel like for both teams there it would be. So
Definitely.
but yeah. Anyway, Joe, do the Mets have any trades or are they going to add any new players that we should know about come deadline? Do you think they're going to be buyers or you think they're still sellers even though they're improved?
Yeah, that's a tough call right now because I think they're going to pick some people up, because if they stay in the wild card race, which is certainly possible, in the beginning of the season, I thought they'd at least stay in the race for most of the year. And if they're in that situation, then I could see them picking up somebody. I don't think they're going to make any bold, big free agent moves, costing a lot of money and giving up a lot of prospects. But I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if they have anybody up their sleeve right now or if there's anybody on the radar that they're going after. But I would not be surprised if they, made some kind of move. They might not do it now. I think they might kind of wait to see where they are around the trade deadline time. Again, because there's going to be a lot of stuff, as I said before, that kind of shows where the Mets are at. How are they going to do against the Mets or against the Braves and Phillies here? How are they going to do when the Dodgers come to Citi Field? Or again, are they going to stay and kind of have these guys that got off to slow starts, get into a groove and go on a big winning streak? Or, are they going to be kind of stuck in neutral and kind of remain, coming up a little bit short on potential here? So it'll be very interesting to see. And I'm wondering if they're kind of waiting a little bit to see what happens after the, let's say the next month, just to see. But would I be surprised if they did something tomorrow? No. But I think they're more liable to wait again, maybe a month or so and get closer to the trade deadline and see what the situation is. And if they're still in it at that point, then I would not be surprised if they went out and made some moves.
Right. And Joe, speaking of the Phillies that are coming in, let's actually take a look at the Phillies as we have a late great story here that we wanted us to read. So anyway, the Phillies, this is an article titled by Eric Smidling. The headline is "Phillies remain MLB's hottest team with dominant Zach Wheeler performance." So basically this article is going to be about a pitcher named Zach Wheeler who's been dominant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
Mets fans know Zach Wheeler.
Oh, I didn't know that. It was with the Mets. Anyway, the Phillies made quick work of the Giants in a 6-1 victory on Monday, sweeping the 4-game series. Starting pitcher Zach Wheeler was sharp, going 7 innings and striking out 11 San Francisco batters. It's his 11th career game with at least 11 strikeouts and his first since July 28th, 2023. Philadelphia has now won 6 in a row, the league's longest streak. Since an 8-8 start through their first 16 games, the Phillies have gone 17-3 over the last 20. Wheeler has played a pivotal role in the team's early season turnaround. Over his last 4 starts, he has had a microscope .36 ERA, allowing only 1 earned run in 21 and a third innings, while striking out 33 batters and issuing 8 walks. His ERA for the season has now dipped into an NL best 1.64. Wow. That's the lowest ERA for a Phillies pitcher through his first 8 starts since Hall of Famer and the late Roy Halladay in 2010.
Wow.
With Monday's win, the Phillies maintain the best record in baseball, 25-11, and hold the 3-game lead over the Braves for first in the NL East. So, Joe, does that give you any hope that the Mets can beat them? I mean, I know that kind of scares you, but you can't play timid, and that's what Carlos Mendoza is going to obviously tell his guys.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Now, again, I think the Phillies are going to come back to earth a little bit. I mean, to me, they're for real, and they've been for real. They went to the World Series 2 years ago. A lot of people think they should have won the whole thing last year once those big teams were out. And they're certainly on that trajectory again this year. Again, as a Mets fan, of course, they're the rival. But I got to admit, if there's one team I could pick as the most fun team to watch in baseball the last couple of years, I mean, sure, you got the Orioles, you got the Reds, you got teams like that are just enjoyable to watch. But I think the Phillies are definitely the top team as far as watchability, must-see TV. Something crazy is going to happen. The crowd in Philadelphia is wild. And I think this entire 6-game streak has happened in Philadelphia too. So, they play great in front of the home fans. And pretty soon it's going to get scary because in Citizens Bank Park in July, I mean, you pop the ball up to the outfield and it's a home run. Kind of like another stadium that we know of here in New York. But anyway, so balls are going to be flying out of that park as the weather gets warmer. Upon saying that, though, again, I could see the Braves just kind of taking off and being unbeatable in a couple of months. The Phillies, I think, are more likely to come back to reality a little bit. I mean, they'll be right in the thick of things. I'm a little surprised now that, here we are a quarter of the way through the season almost, and the Phillies are 3 games out in front of the Braves in first place in the NL East. So that's a little surprising. And I knew the Phillies were good, didn't know they were this good. So, Doesn't mean that the Mets can't beat them, though. And first time coming in, and again, the Mets are going to be up for them. And let the Phillies hit their peak now and have this home winning streak here against, these teams. And again, both of them, subpar team. Who'd they beat today? Who are they've been playing the last? They beat the Giants 4 straight, and I don't remember who they were playing today. But
all I know is the Giants because I watched that Sunday night game that was on ESPN.
Right, and I got again. They won the 4-game series against them, but still, they're going to be, coming to New York, and maybe getting away from Philadelphia might cool them off a little bit. And again, the Mets will be up for them and hope there. But real quick too, I just wanted to talk about Zach Wheeler. I mean, he was with the Mets for a few years, and did well at times for them, and he was kind of hampered by injuries throughout. He missed some significant time with them, and Mets fans knew this potential was there. It's just a shame that now it's realized with the Phillies. But I always liked the way he pitched, and certainly I'm very happy for him, and I'm glad to see him be successful here. And again, wish it was with the Mets or with somebody else besides the Phillies, but hats off to him. He's doing a great job, and I'm happy for him, and I hope he continues to do well, just not against the Mets, that's all. But interesting to see how far the Phillies can go, because again, the way these playoffs are set up, even if they don't come in first place in the division, that might be to their advantage. Who knows? Especially, when they play with house money, then they're the type of team that could seriously get back to the World Series, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So we shall see.
There you go. Classy Joe, always giving his former Mets players respect, just like I give my former Yankees players their props when they need it. So, well, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you in the social media world on Wednesday, May 28th, 2024?
Social media, X, Twitter, Joe Dal Sports on there, putting my tidbits about various sports around the sportosphere.
And then you can find me, yours truly, on Bill's Chat 1 at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dog Tags, and at theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. And before we wrap this up, guys, don't forget to go to our YouTube page, Driving to the Top Productions. Hit that like and subscribe button, and comment down below if you have any comments. We really appreciate you guys listening. And for new listeners, don't forget to subscribe, and always tune in every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock live on Driving to the Top Productions on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you very much for listening, folks. And your attention, please, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Subway Conversation Chat with Jamie and Joe. See you next week, folks.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.